just pulled over at the services near Maidstone. I'm on my way to France. I've got a late tunnel crossing, but I'm here a little bit early. I'm hoping I can get on to an earlier train. This trip's a little bit different. I've got a couple of weeks ahead of me this time, and I'm going to be targeting a lake which has a reputation for some very large carp, and they've just literally opened up night fishing for the first time between February and the end of April. So I've booked myself on through the website, and I'm going to be targeting some of the bigger carp in that venue. It's a deep water, so, and it's early spring. I'm hoping that the weather's been warm enough just to, those fish are just starting to wake up, and hopefully be able to catch a few. If it's not working out, then I've got other options, other lakes that are a little bit shallower, also with some very big carp in, or I can drop onto the river. I may drop onto the river anyway, because I couldn't book on at the weekends for the night fishing on this lake, as it was already fully booked. There's only 6 swims, I think it is, that you can book onto via the website, and they were all taken. So I've got 4 days booked, 4 nights booked, then a 2-day or weekend, it's a 2 or 3 day gap, and then another 3 or 4 days booked on the following week if I need to use them. But I'll assess the situation when I get there, and if the fish are active, they're showing, and I can get in a good swim, then I'll get on. I'll try and night fish through both of the through both weeks, and maybe at the weekend I can just day fish it, or I can drop onto the river and hopefully get a few bites as well. So as I say, the ferry's not for a little while, but hopefully I can get on an earlier one. I'm going to be travelling through the night, and I'll probably arrive. Well, it's a 7 or 8 hour drive at the other side from Calais. So I think I'll stop at a canal on the way down, just take a look, because there's a big fish in there that I'd still quite like to catch. Last time I was there, they weren't really in the mood. So it should be, hopefully I'll get there, and if the water's clear enough, I'll be able to spot and see whether the fish are active, and maybe have a go. If not, I can perhaps get a few hours sleep before continuing on further south towards the lake that I'll be targeting. So fingers crossed. Next update, well, I'll probably be on the canal. So I just arrived at the canal. It's about 8 in the morning. I got here about 4:30, and it's still dark, so I got my head down. Just walked up several hundred yards from where the van's parked, and you can just tell the colour of the water changes. You can normally see the bottom on this canal because it's so shallow and the water's so clear. If I turn this round, you'll see it's really quite murky, and then I've just seen a fish and it looked pretty big, so whether it's the big one I don't know, but we'll see. There's a few pinprick bubbles coming up. There might be a few fish down there feeding. I'm going to go back to the car, get a little bit of bait, maybe some sweet corn, see if I can get them feeding on that. So I've had a look down the canal. I've seen a few fish, but they're not really feeding. They're very shy. If you go anywhere near them, they're just backing right off. The water's very clear, so I guess it's to be expected. I could stay and drop a bait in. I mean, the best chance would be to put one in just as it's dark, and then retire a safe distance away and bivvy up. But I haven't seen the big mirror that's in here, so I'm not prepared to waste the night doing that. I'm going to head to the lake next. I was going to try and get a bit more sleep here before I head off. It's midday now, but there's a guy with a chainsaw in the woods over there chopping up trees, and he's stopped now, but but it makes a hell of a racket. So I think I'll just head straight for the lake, have a quick look round, maybe get set up just for the night, get my head down nice and early, and then I can get up early in the morning and watch out, see if there's any fish active. Okay, heading off now. Right, so I'm at the lake, and I'm the only one here, which is great. I've got the next 4 nights booked: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think I'll have to double check. And well, it's deep, it's all clear, there's no weed. I've had a bit of a cast around. This is over to the left there. I put 3 rods out. This is the southwest facing corner, I guess, so it gets most of the sun. So I've just put a spread of bait out there. They've all dropped clean, there's no weed. Feels like it's a good 12, 14 plus foot deep. And then I've just put another rod down towards the corner there. There's like a pipe coming into the water. I used the bait boat to put that out because that's a good 150 plus yards away. And I'm going to get some food on, watch for a little bit longer, see if I can see anything. Not seen anything show yet. And then get my head down, make sure I get a good night's sleep tonight, so I can set the alarm early so I can get up and watch, see if I can see anything. I need to let the fish show me where they are. I've got the little boat with me. I barrowed my stuff round. It was a mammoth task. It's about 150 acres, this lake, or maybe a bit bigger than that, so it must be best part of half a mile, 3/4 of a mile to barrow it round. I have got a boat with me, but it's only a small boat. I didn't want to drag it out. It wouldn't be big enough to move all my kit around over here. It would be the quickest route, because the car park is directly opposite. The car park's over there, over on the far side, directly opposite where I am now. So the quickest route over would have been with a boat, but as I say, I've only got the small one with me, and it's not big enough to carry all my kit. If I find these fish, and particularly if they're at range and I can't reach them, then I'll go and get the little boat. But we need to see something first, just to make sure we're fishing for the carp. So we'll see how it goes, and I'll give you an update in the morning. I mean, the rods are out. I put a spread of bait out, put a couple of kilos out. Just stuck them out with wafters on, so we'll match the hatch. I've seen a couple of dead crayfish, big crayfish in the margin. I'm hoping they're not active yet, otherwise those boilies will be whittled down. Well, we'll see anyway. I've got some tiger nuts with me, and there were some tiger nuts in this swim, so somebody's been fishing with tiger nuts fairly recently. So it's obviously a favoured tactic, perhaps, to avoid those crayfish, brass on shat and things like that. But I'm hoping at this time of the year they're not going to be that active. We'll see. Morning. It's first morning on the lake. Nothing to report last night. Well, I had a visit from the Garde de Pêche, but all my tickets, they checked my carte de pêche and my authorization for night fishing on this lake for the next, up to Thursday night, but everything was in order, and they were fine about it. There were 3 of them. There's nobody else on. There's nobody else fishing at the moment, so I've got the place to myself. This morning it's pretty much flat calm. There's a tiny bit of breeze going into the opposite corner. I'll switch this around. Yeah, you can see, look, it's flat calm. And seen a few shows. Most of them, in fact, most of them are off towards that corner of the lake, which is, in front of that west bank, sort of southwest bank. I would say too far away from me. There have been one or two, not shows, but a bit of topping a little bit closer, so I'm just going to watch for a little bit longer just to see where the majority, but the fish that are long are coming right out of the water. I wouldn't see them otherwise, you know, but they're silhouetted against that, you know, that white where the wind's catching the surface, you know, and they're leaping clear of the water. I've seen at least 3 fish, very long range. So I need to check if there's a swim down there. It looks like there is, in the right sort of area, and they may even be casting distance from the bank. So I walked around the other side of the lake where I saw those fish boshing at a distance, just so I could get a bead on where they were. Of course, when I got around there, it all stopped, and if anything, there were boshes more out into the lake. But it seems to be the area. Seen enough to know I need to be down that western bank, but it's quite a long way round. I just packed up the barrow, and I was just heading around there, and disaster struck. I've had a blowout. Good news is the boat's up. The bad news is that the trolling motor doesn't work. Well, I'm pretty sure it's the trolling motor. I've tried it with 2 different batteries, and the batteries were blowing up the boat fine. So I've got a long old row to the opposite side there. Must be a good, I don't know, kilometre or thereabouts. And it's now 10:30, so I've missed this morning without the rods out. I've got to go row over to that opposite point, pick up my stuff, and then row along behind where that point's sticking out. You won't be able to see it, to a swim, pick up some more stuff, and then down to my final destination. Or I might just have to go straight to the final destination and come back with a second load of stuff, because this boat, you know, you're not going to get much. You're going to get bed chairs and things in there, or, you know, you won't get everything in there, unfortunately. Right, off we go. Right, I've moved. That was a hell of an ordeal. So I had to go and get the boat, blow it up. The boat, the trolling motor wasn't working, so I've had to row it from one side of the pit to the other side of the pit into a stiff breeze, and then get most of my stuff and bring it down to this swim. I'll show you in a minute. So this is the swim I'm in now. This is the area that I'm pretty sure most of the shows were. Back up that way is where I had to go and collect all my stuff from. So I'm pretty sure this is the area where I could see the shows from that other swim. And by the time I'd got down here to try and pinpoint where the shows were, they'd stopped showing. So it is a bit of guesswork. Either way, this is one of the night swims. So my choices are limited. I've got to go in one of the night swims, at least for the night, so I could move in the day. But I mean, it's a lot of stuff to move by boat when it's only a tiny boat, when you can't paddle properly with it when it's loaded with stuff. So I'm pretty much committed to this swim. So the plan is I'm gonna whack 3 baits out where that windsurfer is now, that sort of area, in fact about that sort of distance, and get something like 3 kilos of 22mm nut baits, nut boilies this is, and whack them over the top. I've had a bit of a cast around. It's at least 25 foot out there. It's even deeper than over in the other swim, but that's where the fish were showing. I I couldn't really zig rig fish it. I'd need to have, I've got adjustable zigs, but I don't think they work at this sort of range, and I think you probably need to use mono. I could use zig straight off the lead, but you know, at best I'm only going to get around half depth. If it comes to it, I might have to give that a go. But so the plan at the moment is to put about 3 kilos of bait out with the throwing stick, because I've got to try and give them a reason for wanting. I think I've got to try and give them a reason for wanting to drop down on the bait. I've done another night, nothing doing. This morning only one fish showed, and that was 400 yards up to my left out in. So what do you do? How do you fish for fish that are very probably up in the surface layer, because it's going to be cold down towards the bottom? The sun's out though, it's, you know, it's warming up these upper layers. What do you do? You know, but they're showing over 25 foot of water. You can't fish zigs at that sort of range. And they stopped showing now anyway. You know, the last one, I only saw one this morning. So I'm going to call it a day, tail between my legs. Notch that one up to experience. I think it's just a little bit too early in the year. Maybe when the weeds up in the margins, they'll start visiting the margins, but the margins are just completely barren. I'm going to pack away all my stuff. Got a lot of stuff to get back by boat. I might just use the bike. And take as much stuff as I can back via the bike, and then the awkward stuff like the bed chair and the bivvy and the long rods, I might just I might take them on the boat only. At least that gives me a chance of rowing it then. We're at the river, just had a quick recce in the bike, on the bike I should say. The water level's really low, the swim's clear, the water level's low. Yeah, luckily the gate's open, so I can, that path to the right takes me right down to where the swim is. I can drop all my stuff off, and then including the bike, and then I can drive back up and park the car in the car park at the back there. Brilliant. Right, let's get going. Rods are out on the river. I just put a couple of handfuls of boilies with a stick around each rod. I've got one out towards the right, a spot that Ryan found last time we were here that seemed to fish really well. It's like a pool just before the river flows out and continues on downstream. And then a bit further to the left I've got 2 rods either side of the tallest tree there on the far bank. A bit bigger, that tall tree right in the middle, a couple either side of that. One of them, the left hand rod, landed really nice and deep, so that's a nice deep pool. The other one about 8 foot, and then I've flicked some boilies over the top of that as well. I probably won't do any filming rod cam shots of any runs tonight. I've only got a couple of hours anyway, and if I get a bit of action, obviously I'll do some video with the fish on the mat, but tomorrow I'll get properly sorted, you know, and if I can get some bites, then nice to catch those on video. There we go, first fish of the trip. Looks a good mirror, probably a high 30. Let's get a wade and see what the scores are. There we go, first fish of the trip on the river, a nice deep bodied mirror. Taken from the spot on the Ryan side, which I can't take credit for. Ryan really, you know, got that spot going last time we were here, and it is a, you know, it's a real banker spot. So what have I been here about an hour and a half? This is typical of these Big French mirrors, love these French mirrors. £36.15. Look at that. Look at that. Fantastic. Oh. Calm down. Lucky to land this one. She got caught behind a snag when I got eventually I had to wade out and get below her, and eventually I got moving again. Look at that huge tail. So get the other side. The size of those fins, that must be a male. Fantastic fish. Look at that. Great start for the river. Fantastic. Take a few snaps. There we go, first fish on the river. Just going back now. Love these mirrors. Love these big French mirrors. Look at that. Look at that. Fantastic. Frame, good sized belly, good shape, fantastic condition. Huge tail. Lucky to get this one in. Hook had strained out a little. Got behind a snag and the hook had strained out a little bit. Okay, let's go back. Let's get that unzipped. Good? All good. Off she goes. That way. Go on. When they're that fat they waddle. Go on. The other way. Swimming into the shallows. You need to go that way, really. Go on. That way. There's like there's a sandbank there. I'm not going to swim up over that. It's such a big bloody fish. Go on, that should do it. You need to head out that way. Come on, up you go. There she goes. There she goes. The water's so clear and shallow at the moment. Go on, off you go. Oh, she's spooking away from me. Let's get going that way. There she goes. I don't know if you can see that. That hook is open right out. Thankfully it was well embedded. Very lucky to get that one in. That rod's going again. It's the same rod as just pulled over. That's still tight. It's dropping back. Yeah, it's still tight. It's just a knock or a pull. Fish number 2 from the river. This was on the left-hand rod, so it's good we're getting action across the spot. First bite was on the right-hand rod last night. I didn't have any more last night, just got my head down and got a good night's sleep. It's a fairly sort of standard common for the river, long, lean, £23.15. Typical for the river, long, lean fish. They're in good condition, which is good to see this early in the spring. Got a leech on it there, so they're just waking up. This one kited left, and I couldn't give it any line. Snags off to the left. The canny fish just kite, and then you know you're in trouble. But I was able to gain line quickly. Lovely lean common. Let's hope there's a few more to come today. Fantastic. Let's get it back. One fish this morning. It's now 20 to 12. To be fair, this place, the bites tend to come later in the morning, in the afternoon. It's absolutely blazing hot. Well, this sun is really bright. Unfortunately, I've got some anglers that have dropped into my left. Hopefully they're just here for today and then they'll move on. Fingers crossed for this afternoon. So the French angler next door has just walked right across the front of my swim over to the right and whacked his rod down into the water, which is just shallow and full of snags. I tell you what, these guys, they've just got no respect for other anglers. If he hooks a fish there, he's got next to no chance of landing it. It's just full of snags, that area of the river. Total idiot. No, it's early in the morning, second full day on the river. Yesterday was a bit of a nightmare with the angler next door. Well, there were 2 anglers next door. Well, 3 of them turned up in the end, and one of them insisted on casting across towards my area, and then he went the other side of the rods and started casting the other side of the rods into shallow water, which was really snaggy. Totally unprofessional. Didn't have the right sort of gear with him, and when I remonstrated with him, he'd just give me a mouthful back basically, so it was a bit unpleasant. I didn't really work very hard yesterday. I just felt a bit pissed off, to be honest. It was very hot yesterday as well, or very bright, very sunny. Once they left about 4 o'clock. I did put the rods out again and try and get a bite, but just couldn't get a bite. It seems that yesterday I had a fish at 9:30 in the morning, which was early and was a good signal that that they were feeding. After that though, the place just went a bit dead. There was very few fish showing, jumping, which they do quite often around here, and I think with that angler, or those 2 anglers coming and casting and making a lot of noise, basically, I don't think that helped either. Bright sunny day, I just don't think they were feeding very well yesterday. So I had a bit of a think about it last night, in half a mind to go somewhere else or try somewhere else. The problem is I'm limited with a punctured barrow wheel, so no means of transport, and the trolling motor. I can't even use the boat to get about. I am limited to fishing somewhere where I can get the van access to, either outside the van or I can drive to the spot. So we'll see what happens today. Today is a Saturday, so it could be a lot of people about again, but the weather is well, it's been raining this morning and it's overcast, it's a lot cooler, so maybe that will keep. I haven't seen any other anglers about this morning, but it's only 7 o'clock, so we'll see what happened. I've put 2 rods out. Oh yeah, the other thing yesterday is, it's with the water bit, with the river being really shallow, all of the snags are exposed. It does seem to be a lot of woodwork around, you know, in the edge. I can see it in the water. I'm casting over a sandbank that's got, you know, all the snags get caught. I'm casting beyond that sandbank, but if I hook a fish, you know, I'm having to pull it through that snaggy area and reeling back through. You know, about 50% of the time I'm just losing my end tackle on the snags. I'm just having to pull for a break. So that's getting me down a bit as well. I've changed over, put braid all the way through, well, braid with a braided leader, just to try and keep the line a little bit higher in the water again, both when really, because with a mono leader it's sinking down towards the bottom in the area around the snags, I think. So so I've got braid with a braided leader on top of that, just to, you know, it's 60-pound braided leader on top of that, just to see if that makes any difference. We'll see what happens today. If fishing improves and there isn't any disturbance from other anglers, then, you know, I'll stay for a few more days and try and, you know, work, because there are some big fish in the river. I've had one over 60, but that was a one-off escapee from a public lake. Otherwise I have caught numerous fish in previous trips, over 20 kilos, you know, over 44 pounds plus. Biggest one last trip was, wow, it was 50 pound on the scales, but it was hovering around the 50 pound mark, so I couldn't really take it. So we'll call that one 49 pound 15. And you know, that still gives me a target of a river 50, so that would be nice. But the way it's going at the moment, I just don't think I'm getting the bites to work through the numbers of fish you'd need to catch, you know, a fish of that sort of size. But we'll see what happens today. If I can get 4, 5, 6 bites, or 4, 5, 6 fish a day, then that's a distinct possibility that, you know, over the next few days I could catch something really big. But at the moment, you know, the fish just don't seem to be feeding that strongly for me to catch that number of fish. Okay, so we'll see what happens. As I say, it's 7 o'clock. Mornings tend to be a bit quieter, but if we can get 3 or 4 bites today, that's a good sign. This has been a long time coming. We're now, well, it was about 1:30 on the second full day on the river. This is only the 3rd bite. The nice mirror, just under 37, and then a common the following morning, and then nothing the rest of yesterday, nothing this morning. I'm working really hard trying to get the bites, but these fish just are not active, they're just not feeding. I think maybe it's a bit too early in the year, but so this bite's very welcome. Another sort of standard size common, probably about 23, 24 on the right hand rod this time. Seems to be the most consistent area. Lots of snags. Luckily this one just went behind a snag and then I just slackened off a bit more of an angle on it, and managed to get it moving again. After that, it's fairly plain sailing. Smashing fish. Might just give it another 24 hours on here. Tomorrow I've got another area I want to try on another river, actually, a couple of hours away. An area they like to go and gather prior to spawning. It's got damage to the tail. We'll see how we get on here. The rest of today might come good this afternoon. We'll see. Right, there she is, 3rd fish of the trip. Very welcome. No monster, but typical of these river common. Good condition apart from a damaged tail which is well healed. It's a hard life in the rivers. Go on then, in you go, in you go. Unceremoniously. That's it by itself. There you go. There you go. It's that way. That way. Thank you very much. Go and tell one of your big brothers or sisters to pay me a visit. And don't take too long about it. I've lost so much tackle here. I've had 3 carp and landed them all. I think when you've got a carp on you can keep them above the snags, but reeling in and you're just losing everything. Look how low this water is. Look, you see all the sand. Normally it's about 4 foot higher, 5 foot higher than this. I'm just going to give it the last half an hour and then I've got everything packed up. I'm going to head back to the car, make my way to the new spot. I'll arrive when it's dark, but that's okay. I can get everything set up and get my bearings ready for the morning. The spot where I'm going is night fishing, so and I can sit right. I can park the car right behind the swim, so at least I'll have a little bit of luxury. Well, what do you know? I've only been here about an hour and a half. Not even that, maybe an hour. And one of the rods is gone. Oof. I've left the river because I was just losing too much tackle and wasn't getting enough bites, really. I'll show you this place in a minute, but here we go, there's the first carp. About 13, 14 pounds, something like that. Maybe not even that big. But very welcome. Shows that they're here. So I've been told this spot is it's connected to the river, referred to as a darse. It's where they load the boats. So it's like a big dock. And I'm fishing a bank which is south facing, so they get in here and collect. I'm told they can't get in this area and collect ahead of spawning. And we're just at the end of March, so maybe a little bit early, but this shows that they're here this spring, and hopefully a few more will arrive. I arrived last night. It was dark, so I just got my head down, and then I got up early this morning. It was a very cold night, very bright day. Temperature's risen. It must have been close to freezing last night. I was cold in the bag, and then it's already feeling like t-shirt and short weather now, and we're only 10:30 in the morning. I had a quick look along the bank. You can get along the bank that I'm fishing to. It's sort of a out of bounds area. And one or two things rolled. Difficult to see what they were. Thought they might be catfish. It's a bit early for catfish to be active. Looks like they were carp. There we go. On la métalo. Let's get her back in the water. I'm not going to weigh her. Typical sort of river common. So this is the new spot. It's actually a lake that's connected, or a body of water that's connected to the zone, which enters further down the bottom there. It's often used. There's a big plant over there which seems to be on 24 hours a day, making noise with very bright lights at night. Probably processing wheat or some other cereal. And then, so this it's like a rectangular block of water which stretches for probably about 1 kilometre long, something like that. Quite a big body of water, and then this corner here gets the sun, and there's a sandbank there. The fish I caught earlier was a little bit further along the bank. I was cheating using a bait boat to get it right, tucked in over that far bank. You can walk over there, but you're not allowed to fish over there. It's a reserve. Well, there's a sign up there that says it's a reserve from May. But this is the where I am now is the first swim as you enter, which allows you to cast across that way. So there's been 1 or 2 fish on the surface. When the sun was out, it was very hot. Now the sun's gone in, it's gone very cool. Fortunately, that's the weather of this time of year. And I've had a couple of liners on that rod, which is closest to that corner, but other than that I haven't had any more action. The rod that I put out this morning had only been in about an hour and it was away, so I was hopeful there were a few more fish about, but nothing's materialised so far today. I'll give it another I'll give it another night and a good chunk of tomorrow, and then I might go and look at some lakes nearby which allow night fishing. They're literally 5 minutes away, and there's a little supermarket nearby as well, so I can pick up some provisions. It's this is relative luxury for me, fishing from a swim where you can park your van at the back of your bivvy, so quite liking that. But we probably need to see a bit more action. We'll see what happens tonight and tomorrow morning. I didn't get the rods in till about 9:30 this morning, once I'd had a good look around just to make sure there were sort of fish in the air, and I'd seen a couple of somethings roll, which now I think were probably carp, having had a bite. So we'll do the night, and the productive part of the morning here, and then I might just take a trip into the town nearby, get some stuff from Lidl, and check out those 2 other park pools. 3 fish last night, 1 on each rod throughout the night. First one about 10:30, second one about 1 in the morning, and then the last one at 5 in the morning. I didn't replace the rods, so I've just done them now. It's we're at first light. This is the largest of the 3. Still nothing massive. I guess this is £20 or something similar. It's going absolutely mental. Absolutely mental. Really quick. These are all male, smaller fish. This one's probably scraping 20 the most. There we go. Being himself now. Second one of the night. So I put the first one straight back. It was 14-15 pounds, something like that. This one's a real character of the river, bent up shape. Another male, I'm guessing. Seems to be all the male. It's the males that are here. Maybe the bigger females will turn up. I think there's fish turning up all the time. To get 3 bites in a night. See the lump on his side there. It's a real deformity. Right, let's get him back. Hope for a nice big mirror will be good. Just the 2 fish last night. One was a tiny mirror, probably about 6 or 7 pound, which I returned directly. And then this, which is another common, but it's a little bit bigger than the other fish I've had. Oh, it's gonna absolutely beat me up, I think. I'm not weighed it. But it looks a good 20. If it will behave itself. Yeah. Fantastic condition. Just while it behaves itself. There's the other side. Another male, I don't think the big females have arrived yet. It might be a week or two too early. So I'm in 2 minds whether to stay one more night or head for the canals. I think with the bright sunny days, cold nights but bright sunny days, might be a chance to catching them off the surface. Right, we're all packed up, ready to go. Next stop, Lidl, I think, and then on to the canals. Saying goodbye to this spot. Perhaps a little bit early in the year for it to really pay off. But 6 fish in a couple of nights and a morning, a couple of nights and a day. So can't complain about that. It's nice to get a bend in the rod. Although the bites at night. Next to no action during the day, so I couldn't face another prospect of a quiet day. So jump in the van. Time's it now, 11 o'clock. Head off to Lidl, get a few extra provisions, and then off to the canal for a bit of, well, hopefully we can get on going on the top, bit of bread bombing. Just been to Lidl and I've dropped in on a local park lake. It looks absolutely cracking, this place, but there's a strong northerly wind blowing, really cold. I'm on the back of the wind here. If they're up and about, I'd expect them to find them somewhere around here. So I'm just going to scan this margin. But really, I'm not prepared for this. I need to find out a bit more information about this lake. Looks like it's got the potential, but you never know what's in here, how difficult it is. And I'd certainly need, at the very least, a barrow, and better still, bicycle trailer, because it must be over 100 acres or thereabouts. There's a path going all the way around, but you know, that's a hell of a barrow push. Not sure if that's a good sign or not. That's quite a sizable fish, I think, but looks like it might have, well, it's certainly been eaten since it's been dragged up the bank. I've stopped at a park lake. There's a reserve and a shallow area which is south facing, so and it's right next to the car park, so I haven't got a barrow or carry stuff anywhere. I'm just going to do the night in here. It looks pretty good. I haven't seen anything. I'm fishing over to the left. There is a reserve. You're not allowed to fish that. But this area is south facing. I'm casting all the way over to the other side, back at the wind there, but that's getting the sun pretty much all day. They're about, I would guess, they're about 20-30 yards from the bank, just into the wind line, and I've just spread them out sort of 10 to 2 with single pop-ups that have been chopped down so they just balance on their own without any need for putty. And then I've got 1.5 kilos or so of halved boilies, which I've just pre-soaked a little bit, then added some vanilla flavoured cappuccino from French Lidl. So we'll just let them soak up that coffee and vanilla flavour for a little bit, then I'll go cycle around to the other side, and catapult that in off the back of the wind, spreading it out across all 3 rods. And I think the best chance of a bite is going to be tonight, so we'll give it till sort of, I don't know, 9 in the morning, and then get packed up and head towards the canal. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So I just did a quick night on a park lake. No action, nothing. I did hear 1 or 2 fish during the night, but it was a bit of a long shot, a bit of a gamble. When I was here in the afternoon, I was visited by a French angler who showed me some pictures of the carp in the lake, and I asked him about the stock, and he said that there were 7 fish over 30 kilos, 7 different fish over 30 kilos, which is amazing, outstanding. And he showed me the pictures, so of some fish that looked to be, you know, of that sort of weight. So may very well be the case. And he said I was in one of the best spots, and he showed me where to put the rods, and actually I'd already got the rods set up, but he said, you know, ideally, because I'm casting to the opposite bank, he said, you know, put them closer to the bank, because the fish come into this bay and circle round, you know, just off the margin. You know, they come in towards the reserve, hugging the margin as they come and go. So I did recast when the wind had dropped, because it was really breezy yesterday. When the wind had dropped a little in the evening, I did recast them again, a bit tighter to the bank. But it's made no difference. It's now 8 o'clock in the morning. I guess, you know, my best chance for a bite would have been during the night, or maybe, you know, I'll stay another hour or 2 at the most, maybe till 10, and then head for the canal. So I need to wait for it to warm up. I'll just check the weather report again, but if, you know, to catch them on bread off the top, I'm going to need some hot sun. So I need to wait for it to warm up a little bit. I think where I need to go, it's, when I last looked, it was at least 2-hour drive to get to the canals, maybe closer to 3. So if I head off around about 10, 11, I should get there mid-afternoon, which should be the hottest part of the day. So that's the plan. I've stopped off at a whim. I'm not quite at the spot I intended to visit, but just looking from the road, I spotted a section of canal, because the road drives right by it at one point. I spotted a section of canal that looks kind of the combination of nice and remote, but with some locks and a couple of bends. So I'm just gonna, I've got the bike and a bag of bread, a couple of catapults, and I'm going to cycle up this way to start with, put some bread in some likely looking spots, see if anything comes, and then do the same, head back this way, check out that bend a bit further down there. If anything comes to the surface, then I can run back, or I can cycle back to the car and get some tackle ready to try and get a few on the bread bomb. Nothing doing on that section, but these carp can be, well, and the clouds coming over now as well, that's not helping us. But these fish can be quite localized well, it might just be too early in the year to get them to come to the surface. But I'm going to go to a section where, quite a short section of canal now, which I know definitely has at least a dozen carp in it. So if we can get them to come to the top, then that's probably our best chance. So I've been working the canals all today. Couldn't get anything to rise to the bread, but I covered quite a lot of mileage on the bike. Found fish. There's a group of fish in another section of this canal that I've not looked at before, near a stone quarry, and yeah, there's a number of fish there, so might give that a go. And they were feeding, so I might give that a go tomorrow, sort of morning or late morning, early afternoon, because they were feeding in the afternoon. But it's a difficult spot to get the car in because there's a road runs at the back of it and a barrier, and there's not enough of a gap between the barrier and the canal certainly to put a bivvy up. And anyway, you'd spook them because they were feeding right in the margin. So it's one where you've got to be a little bit discreet, but I think that's okay. We'll give it a go tomorrow. Drop the rods in close to the right area, and then retire a good distance away, and hopefully they'll come to the bait. The rods are out. The digger's gone, so there's no more noise. It's a lovely, peaceful evening. Sun's just going down. It's 7:30. I've spaced the rods out. They're about 20-30 yards apart, and just dropped in the margin straight off the rod tip with a handful of, well, a mixture of hemp, tiger nuts, sweet corn. I had half a tin left, and chopped boilies, and then I've just put a sort of semi-balanced chopped boilie on there, half a boilie on each of the rigs. So we'll see what happens. There were definitely fish in this area, so if they're up for a munch, I mean, the canal looks really good. It's got a little bit of colour to it, which is good. I think that always helps with them, coming in close. They've got a little bit of cover and a little bit of colour in the water. The other sections that I've seen today where the fish are in very clear water, they're very spooky. So hopefully, these fish will feed confident well enough to. I think the best I can hope for is to get a bite tonight, and then, well, probably give it till about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at the latest, pack everything up, and then go down to the other spot that I found for the first time today and do a few hours there and try and pick up, a bonus carp. And then if the sun does come out tomorrow and we get a decent level of heat, I'll have another go with the bread on the surface. I'll move up to another section of this canal where I've had fish off the surface before, and where there's probably a few more fish in the section, so they're competing for the bread, and they go after it with gusto. So that's worth a try. And then just a little bit further up the canal, there's a really good spot where I can park up for the night and fish more or less out the back of the van, and there's it's good fish in there to over 25 kilos. So that's the plan for the next sort of 24 hours plus. After that, I'll head to a lake which is open for night fishing, but only at the weekends, and that's got a good stock of big carp in it as well. So I want to get there Friday morning, really, or Friday during the day, to get a march on any of the weekend anglers. And then I'll have Friday night and Saturday night, and a good chunk of Sunday before I need to travel back. Good morning. It's first light, and we've got one in the net, and it's a mirror, a good sized mirror. She is, look. That's a big old unit. That's got to be the biggest of the trip, I reckon. try and get on the side of it. Oh yeah, look at the bulk of that. Okay. Whoa, calm down. Calm down. Just let you rest a bit. I'll get stuff ready. Okay, bite from this morning on the canal. About 7:30, long into first light. I knew it was a big fish. I can't find the end of the sack. He's bite on the canal, 7:30 this morning. Let's see if this fish is going to behave itself. Oh, come on, behave yourself. Watch it now. It's a huge carp, 52 pounds, 13. Oh, behave yourself. Behave yourself. Whoa, nearly got a tail slap there. Strong fish. £52, 13 of Canal carp. Finally caught a French 50. Had one over 60 off the river, but never caught a 50. Look at that. Massive. Spring weight. Got a good belly on it, good size to it, width to it. Oh. Let's turn around. Oh, she's heavy. There we go. What a fish. That was not expected. It's been a roller coaster of a trip so far. I've had a few fish from different areas, but nothing of any size. So fantastic to get this fish. Oh no! There you go. Difficulty holding her. So big and round. Look at that! Fantastic! What a carp! Great to get one. A big fish this time. Oh, let's get some snaps. Just putting her back in the water. Let me just get the...
Allez-y, filmez.
Oui.
La pousser tout doucement.
Let me just get the tail.
Oh,
oh straight in.
oh.
She's away. Allez. It's a quick rig tuck. So this is the rig, or the end tackle I tend to use for most of my fishing. So on the end there is attached to a 0.45 mono leader is Gemini snood clip, and then at the back here is a anti-tangle sleeve, which is a tungsten one, just so it weights the rig down. That means I can use it with a chod as well. And then I've got what we call a silly rig. Well, you can see that. So that Richard Curtis came up with this, so that works like a bungee. there's a swivel attached inside there, and a longer length, double length of braid. So when the fish pulls really hard, that will pull out, and you've got a much longer hook link. And then just to tension it up again, you just hold both swivels and pull them apart, and then you're back to the bungee effect. And then that's attached to a doubled over section of stiff fluorocarbon D-rig style, bit of putty just to tighten that up, because that's the braid attached to the mono. So it's a reverse combi. And then instead of shot on the hair, I just use a twist of lead wire around the hook to create that sing. And then that's a wafter or a pop-up trimmed down to match with the half baits that I've been using. And that's the rig that caught the 50-pound mirror earlier this morning. So that goes onto the clip first. Always goes onto the clip first, otherwise you'll lose every fish. And then the lead goes on afterwards. And then push your anti-tangle sleeve down over the top. Comme ça. And then once you get a take, the lead will come off every time, and it doesn't really get stuck like with other. So it's essentially this Gemini clip acts like a lead clip, but unlike other lead clips, it never fails. The lead always drops off. There's a bit of resistance there, but it invariably always drops off. Right, it's morning. Last night on the canal, before I move on to a lake nearby, different section to where I caught the big fish yesterday morning. I spent all the day, or most of the day, searching the canal. I had a bit of a go trying to get them to go get them to come up and take the bread, but they were just, none of the carp were very active. As soon as I fired a bit of bread in, they disappeared. So dropped on a section of canal that I'm fairly familiar with, and just stuck the rods out for the night, just dropping them in the margin, handful of bait around each one, subtle as I can. I've got the rod spaced out along this stretch of the canal. There was a bit of bubbling, not long after I put the rods in. I saw a bit of fizzing up, so I was quite optimistic for the night. But despite all that, it's a quiet night. It's now getting on for 9 in the morning, so chances of a bite, I think, are vanishing. But I'll give it another hour or so, because I'm not in any hurry to get to the lake. And I might check out a river. There's a section of the river nearby that's opened up for night fishing for the first time this year, so I might just go and take a look at that. And apparently the river's supposed to have some good carp in it, because they've been stocking it for a number of years, and those fish have grown on. So I think I'll go and take a look at the river, and then continue on to the lake. And I've got 2 nights left on the lake before I've got to make my way back to the UK. Well, we made it to the lake, so this will be the last venue I've fished. I must have fished at least, this must be the 7th location on this 2-week trip. And it's absolutely glorious. There's not a cloud in the sky. It must be knocking on 18-19 degrees, and I'm just enjoying the sun at the moment. I've got the rods out. I should say it's about 1:30 in the afternoon, 2 o'clock. I've got the rods out, and I fished this spot before, and with Ryan, and in November, and we had a fish each, so I know this produces. It looks absolutely cock on as well. You got this breeze just drifting into this corner here. And when I was here last time, directly out in front of where I'm pointing the camera now, that's we arrived on the Thursday night going into the Friday morning at about midnight, and we walked around the lake, Ryan going one way and I went the other way, seeing if we could hear anything show, and I heard one right out in front of here, so this is why we chose this spot. And it produced, so fingers crossed this is a good area. It certainly looks good at the moment. I imagine with the weather being as it is, bites will all be at night, and the fish at the moment will be where I'm pointing the camera now. There's a out of bounds point, and the water in front of that is unreachable with more than average cast, so that's the safe area. They'll be sitting up enjoying the sun over there. But as it approaches evening and they drop down, I'm confident, especially with this wind, gentle breeze as it is, keep a little bit of that'll follow it in. And down here is quite a snaggy corner. I might put a fourth rod down towards that way, just the other side of that bush. Sneaky fourth rod. You're allowed to use 4 rods, but it's probably making more use of the swim or the water in front of the swim than should be allowed. It depends as well. This is Friday now, and there's night fishing on this lake throughout the weekend only. So there'll be anglers. There's a couple of anglers already over the opposite side. One of those is bivvied up and is no doubt going to be doing the night just the other side of the point, and there'll be others arriving, I'm sure, filling up swims because it's quite popular water. As far as I know, there's a good head of 20 kilo plus carp in here, and I had one of that size last time I was here. So and they're young fish growing. It's quite a good stock. So what I've done is I've put in this area directly out in front or slightly to the right, I've baited with, I've put about 2 kilos of boilie in so far, 22mm boilies, and I've used krill. There's a lot of crayfish in here, and I actually think it would be a good thing to attract them in. I don't know how active they are just yet, but so I put the krill boilies on for the moment. I've cast all 3 rods out, respooled, cast all 3 rods out. They're going out, I imagine I'm hitting around 110, 120 yards, that sort of distance from the bank, and I can bait with the stick, the 22 ball boilies with a stick. I can get that sort of range comfortably. So I've baited sort of 10 to 2 with a couple of kilos of boilies, and I'll put another kilo at least in tonight. But I want to leave the rods out for the moment and bring them in about sort of 5 o'clock and see what's happening with the bait, because I've just used the same boilies on the hook, single 22mm boilie, krill flavoured boilie, and I want to see how active the crayfish are, because if they're active and I want to leave a bait out all night, I'll either have to put a wrapped bait on or have to use a hard hooker. I don't expect any bites during the day, but I'll at least be able to assess the damage that the crayfish are doing. Like I say, I don't think attracting the crayfish in, I don't think is a bad thing. I've got another 5 kilos of that krill boilie as well, which I can use tomorrow night, or I've got some nut flavoured boilies as well, same size, which I could use instead if I fancy a change. But for the time being, I've sort of stripped down a bit and enjoying the sun. I've got a beer on the go, courtesy of Aldi. That'll be the wrong way around because the way these phones work, it says steam brew, an IPA, 7.5%. Whoa. I'm taking a few of those home with me, I can tell you. And so I've got a beer. I've taken my trousers off, you don't want to see that, and my socks, and I'm enjoying a bit of the sun. Yeah, fantastic, living the dream. So the bite came last night at 2 in the morning on the middle rod, and I could feel straight away something wasn't quite right. It was under the other line, and the left-hand rod was beeping. The only thing I could think is that I'd cast over the top of the line, and that was the first rod they hit. Was actually the bait was positioned to the left. Anyway, long story short, the fish came off. The hook pulled. Either not a very good hook hold, or the fact that it was over the top of the other line didn't help. So that's disappointing. No more action after that. That was 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm convinced. So that was over this sort of direction to the right of the swim. I'm convinced most of the fish are right out in the middle, and then during the night they'll drift over this way. So, you know, they're here by the early hours of the morning on the right hand side of my swim. Last night the fish were jumping out, boshing out pretty much all night, and most of them were to my left, or you know, the sounds were to the back and to the left. So I've changed tack. I was pitched up there. I've now moved round to this side of the swim, and I'm going to fish out more towards that point, or more towards the centre of the lake, and put 2 rods out there as far as I can fish them, and then I'll still, if nobody drops into the right here, and they could do because it's a double swim, but if nobody drops into the right there, I'll still fish the area out to the right here, and then with 2 rods as well. Then for me, what that does is it doubles my chances. I might get a pickup a bit earlier in the evening on the left hand side, and as they drift more towards this corner or drift more this side of the lake, perhaps get a pickup later in the evening, and then that sort of doubles my chances, or gives me a chance of getting landing 2 fish. So that's the plan. Today it's going to be really quiet. It's going to be really sunny again, so I imagine the fish will pop up to the top in the middle somewhere and not go anywhere near any angler's bait. So I'm just going to sunbathe today and enjoy what will be the last full day in France, and then tonight, you know, we'll see what happens. But yeah, these zigs are kicking off. I've just had one about 20 pound, and then 20 minutes later, and that looks like a right chunk as well. It took me about half an hour to get it in, because when you're playing them on a 10 pound line and size 8 hooks or whatever, you don't want to lose them. Fantastic. Okay, second fish on the zigs. Literally within minutes of the first one going. There's a lot of fish out there. They're active. This morning I put out 4 5-foot zig, or 4 5-foot zigs. To my surprise, I really didn't think we were going to get any action during the day. This one's gone. I don't imagine they get to see many. They do see many zigs. It looks big. But it's 36 pounds 6. So it's got a huge head. What's going on there? I want to get this back quite quickly. There we go, look at that. Fantastic. Huge mouth on it, big head. Slanty back mirror. Scary. Outside. I love these big mirrors. Difficult to hold because they're so deep. Here we go, fantastic. Let's get a couple of snaps quickly and get him back. So this is the zig on my hairy knee. So it's just a a bit of black foam lassoed onto and then knotless knotted, and then I'll put this critter aligner thing on just to open the gape up a little bit. And the hook's fairly fine wire, but that's fine. There's no snags in here, and I'm fishing with 10-pound zig line anyway. And 4 foot, between 4 and 5 foot seems to be doing the business. I'm smacking them right out as far as I can get them. They must be going at least 150 yards, I would think, right out to the middle where the fish seem to be very active at the moment. So the plan was tonight to put a couple out straight out in front there, and then a couple out to the right where I had them last night and had a pick up, but I lost it unfortunately. But I've been doing really well on zigs today. I'm almost tempted to leave because zigs work well at night as well. I've got a guy over there on that opposite bank. Probably can't see him, but he's spodding the granny out of it. Going about 150 yards with a spod, or at least 120. And then I've got a guy to the right of me, to the left of me. I can't really. And he's spotting the granny out of it as well. So I'm a bit well, I wouldn't say I'm hemmed in because there's a lot of water out there, but these carp are under a lot of pressure. It would have been better if there was nobody to the right, because then it would have forced them down to this side of the lake and I could have caught them a bit closer in, but you probably hear the spoms going off now. It's coming up to tea time and everybody's bombing like mad. It's like being on linear. God forbid. Right, so I'm going to at least stick a couple on the deck, I think. Maybe leave one on the zig. And then as soon as the sun gets up tomorrow, well, I'm going straight on the zigs, because they've produced 2 takes out of nowhere today, and I would have had nothing off the bottom, I'm sure. Right, the sun's just setting now. Bit of a change of plan with the success on zigs today. I've left one on a zig, but I've dropped it to sort of half height. I've soaked a bit of, trimmed down a bit of cork and soaked it in some goo. So that's gone out 2.5 foot depth, which is probably just below halfway or half depth. And then 2 rigs have gone in the same spot as last night. That should be enough. And I've put about half a kilo of bait over the top of that. And then the other rod, I've just slung it sort of straight out a little bit further just to try and pick one up a bit earlier. And I've only put a handful of bait over that. So hopefully that's a relatively early bite, or earlier bite in the night if I can get a bite. And the other, one of the other 2 rods will go, early hours of the morning, if that's the way it works. I'm hemmed in on both sides by French spommers, so but this corner of the lake's relatively quiet. I know they do like to get down here in late into the evening, so fingers crossed. Right, so last night's fishing with the boilie fishing was proper amateur cartoon town. I woke up about 4 o'clock this morning to a few bleeps. Just a few bleeps. I could have just put my head back down and gone back down to sleep, but I thought I'd go and check the rods. When I got to the buzz pod, these are the rods to the right. I baited, there were 2 rods on sort of 10 to 2 baiting pattern with boilies. When I got to the buzz pod was toppled over. 1 rod was on the ground and the other rod was completely missing. And of course what's happened is, now I know I slackened the clutches off on both those rods, but the rod sort of fourth rod that I've got has got a fairly cheap reel on it, and the clutch is snatchy, so it can tighten up, or it can it can be go tight until it gets moved again, and then it runs smoothly. So I mean, that's what had happened. I'd got a run on that rod. It locked up. I always put the butt ring behind. The alarm, so that had pulled the whole buzz pod over, toppled, and the rod had gone in the water. So luckily, so there's obviously a fish on the end. Luckily, I managed to snag up the line with one of the other rods. Yes, you got it back. The only fish last night fell to the zig rod. This perfect little miniature carp, probably of about 9 or 10 pound. So it's the last day, last morning. I'm going to give it a proper go on the zigs today. I've just switched 2 of the rods over. Yeah, so I've got 2 rods set up, ready to go. I've changed. These have got really quite fine braid on them as the main line, 0.23 I think it is, and that's got, and then there's a mono shock leader of 0.45 diameter, and that's causing a few fraps because, if you can imagine, there's friction on the rings as the rod decompresses and the line accelerates, and then that's followed by a much lighter line, and it tends to sort of overshoot itself and frap up, catch on either the butt ring or the tip ring. So I had a crack off and a couple of fraps yesterday which didn't break, thankfully. So I'm putting I haven't tried this before, but it seems to be working so far. I'm putting like 2 shock leaders onto the really fine line. I'm putting a heavier braid for about 2 rod lengths, and then I'm tying onto that the mono leader. So if you can imagine, there's accelerating out of the rod, the line, it switches to the heavier braid with a bit more resistance to stop any fraps, and that will cut down the cast range slightly, but we're talking marginal. I'm not noticing any difference with these. These are going as far as I can get them towards the middle. Already we've had, while I'm still setting up the 3rd rod with the same setup, and already I've just had a sharp drop back and a take on this left hand rod, hooked into the fish, and all was going well, and then hook pull, which unfortunately I think is just an occupational hazard of zig fishing. So I'm going to concentrate on the zigs today. It's been the last day, see if we can put a couple. We had two on the zigs yesterday, one on the zig last night, or first light this morning, and already we've had a take, so it's looking good. Let's see if we can get a few more fish on the zigs today before we have to pack up and leave back to Calais. Oh, you. Shit. Broke the hook link. Didn't feel like it pulled that hard. I'm gonna have to be really careful tying those. That's a bit frustrating. Just lost a fish. Second fish on the bounce that I've lost. First one was a hook pull. That one was entirely my fault. I should have tested. That was a hook link that I used yesterday, and it gave at the knot. Not far away from it, just tiring, and it went on one last sort of run. I didn't even pull that hard, so the knot must have been weakened. I've just put another rig on, tested everything, and recast it to the same area. So it's 11 o'clock, so still I don't think I had the bites yesterday until at least mid-afternoon. So I think what's happening is I can't get all the way to the middle, but every now and then the fish are drifting this way, and I'll get a pickup. So fingers crossed, we've still got plenty of time to get one on the bank today. That would be good. Right, that's it. We're done. Heading back to Calais now. It's about 5 hours from where I am now, but I'll stop and get something to eat. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind up and down of a trip. I counted 8 different venues or 8 different locations. Gravel pits, canals, rivers, waters off rivers. So lots to think about. 10 carp caught, so not the most prolific trip, but that's not bad considering it's this time of the year. It can be a bit hit and miss, and of course topped off by that personal best Canal carp, 24 kilos, £52.13. So overall really pleased with the trip. I didn't catch any more on this lake. Unfortunately, the last couple of takes were lost fish. So one was a hook pull, and that's another thing. I think lessons learned, just especially on this lake, just some silly mistakes. Just not making sure the tackle's up to scratch. So the last breakage on the hook link was my fault. The knot had weakened. I think I'll use a Polymer knot now. I think whenever I do zig fishing, I think that's going to be much more reliable. And in the mistake with the rod being pulled into the water because the clutch was too tight or the clutch was too sticky, and then before that I'd cast over one of the other rods and had a taken, and that had probably contributed to that hook pull. So some silly mistakes, lessons learned, but also being flexible, being prepared to use different methods, and fish different spots and try different things. When you come on these trips, you've always got to have lots of options when it's not working, so you can kind of make it happen, working really hard to make sure it happens. And even changing things up, like switching to zigs, made a difference. I caught 3 fish off from here, unfortunately lost 4 fish, but caught 3 fish up from here, and they were all on zigs. So I would have blanked in the last 48 hours if I hadn't been prepared to try the zigs. The French have a phrase, or have a word, polyvalent, which as I understand it means multi-skilled and flexible. So you certainly need to you need to be able to make things happen when conditions are tough. It's been really high pressure over the last 2 weeks. Most of the bites have been at night time. That's perhaps why the river was only got 3 bites on the river over 2.5 days. So perhaps why the river wasn't as prolific as it normally is. Maybe they were feeding more at night, because when I went to the zone, or the port off the zone, all of the bites were at night time. So lots learned, some new venues as well, which are pinned for next time I'm in the area to try those out. Yeah, fantastic trip. Right, that's a wrap. I'm off to Calais. See you on the next trip. The next trip is actually in May, only about 5 weeks away, so I'm looking forward to that already.